Today, I'm going to show you how I make a welcome sign. If you've ever walked into a business and seen a bright red sign that says, "Come in, we're open," that's what we're making. So we're just going to start off by getting a few of our materials ready. I need some tape, a weeding tool, and an X-Acto knife. Once I've got these things, I'm going to score the top half of my decal just so I can weed it off a little easier, get this top part off, and then I can pull the vinyl off the bottom part. This just makes it so I don't get it stuck on the decal when I'm trying to peel it off. Sometimes that happens and it can ruin the decal. Then I'm just going to cut some of this excess off. This gets it out of the way when I put my transfer tape on. Laying transfer tape on is pretty easy. I have this little roller here. It allows me just to set the decal right next to it, pull it out, and then lay it all on nice and flat. Before I had this, I would stick it onto the table and roll it out by hand, and it was much harder and took a lot more time. And I used to mess it up quite a bit. So after that, we're just going to peel it off. It's now ready to be cut with the X-Acto knife. We're going to lay it down flat on our table, grab the ruler, and try to cut everything straight. The hard part is that there's no guides on this one. I forgot to make them. So when you're cutting, you hope that it looks straight, but you're not sure if it's totally perfect. If this was for a customer, I would make sure it was perfect. But it's not, so we're just going to try and get it as close as we can. After that's all set, we're going to take a blank sign and get it all prepped. I have to clean it. You usually have to wash each one because they come dirty from, I think, the machines that cut them originally. Some of the signs also need to be sanded down on the sides, but for these big ones, we don't have to do that. So we're just going to wipe it down with a wet rag. Just make sure nothing is under the vinyl when we lay it down. For this sign, we're going to use a red vinyl. Each roll I use comes in 15 inches wide. These signs are only 12 inches wide, which makes it perfect for wrapping. I just like to lay it down, get a rough estimate of the size, cut out a piece that's larger than the sign, and then it's ready to be wrapped. I also like to cut some of the excess off the sides just so it doesn't get hung up in the roller. One day I'll have a spot for this roller, but until then it stays on the floor, and when I need it, I just put it on the desk. One thing about having a small office is you have to learn how to be efficient and make room for different things. So keeping certain things out of the way and using them only when you need them really frees up a lot of space. So now we're going to take our vinyl, lay the bottom layer underneath, and then run it through the roller, making sure that's on straight and flat, no bubbles. This is one of the worst parts to mess up because peeling the vinyl off of a sign leaves a bunch of residue, meaning I have to clean it. So I usually just have to take a new sign and use that. It's just a pain and it leaves a giant pile of messed up signs for later. This part usually takes a while. I usually do this all at once with a bunch of signs, but I'm just trimming off all the edges, making sure they're nice and smooth and nothing's hanging over. You have to kind of scrape it to make it look good. And I've said it before, but this is probably the hardest part of the entire process. Lining up a decal on the sign, making sure it's even on all ends. I like to use tape like you saw just to hold it in place. And then I squeegee one end down to hold it down good, run it through my roller, and then it's all set. Usually it's put on straight at that point. You've got to be careful now. This is the part where you really can mess up the entire sign and ruin it and have to start all over. Peeling off this transfer tape. If you don't go slow, it will rip up some of the vinyl. And nobody wants to mess up a "Come in, we're open" sign.